started coming back together, you know, you and John had the very interesting difference from the rest of us, right? Being able to work together first,
Yep.
memorize first. This fabulous professional lady, totally off book, so quick, and John too. Y'all always got to work in a normal way, right? Like together, you could kiss, hug. We had that whole, you know, pre-show announcement.
Yeah.
Just so curious to hear like what that process was like for you when the rest of us could not be like that.
So it was normal in a way that, like, yes, we were working on scene work together, but it was also abnormal. It was abnormal probably for most actors, but it was also again kind of normal for us because like we had worked on tour together for so long and often in stuff that we wrote
Yeah.
and would be like already collaborating on of like what do you think makes sense action wise in this scene. So we'd already been not blocking it out or anything, but already working together in a way that actors like we weren't like giving each other notes, but we
Yeah,
already
just
have a way of
finding the
knowing like,
things
oh, this makes
that
a really
work.
good scene. And so we independently learned our lines and then we're able to already like sit down and do a lot of that the the nerd work before we even had that first Zoom reading all together. The things that were not normal about it is like the total lack of separation of like, okay, we're rehearsing in our bedroom and I've like shoved so much stuff aside and made like this makeshift Zoom studio
Yeah.
and we'd already been practicing like getting better with upgrading to like a webcam that uh, is nicer than just the one in the laptop and stuff. Making the those education videos for Classic, which was
Yeah.
but we were learning a lot just in like, oh, I'm seeing how I look on camera because we're filming this. So we were already doing a lot of Shakespeare in this box. So we were
Mm-hmm.
already kind of like practicing with that in mind. Of like how would these scenes look if we're just confined in this space, and then it was nice to finally put our masks on and go outside and meet in the park and just meet with Joe, and he's sitting at a table and we're over in the dirt acting stuff out and be like, oh, this we have all this space and there's all these cicadas, and so like yeah, these things that were very not normal to how we would
Yeah.
normally rehearse in a studio with other people. I don't think we formed any bad habits in that way, but there were definitely things I'm like, ooh, this definitely worked for Zoom. And if we had to go for a Zoom reading of this, that probably would have
Be
been what we
totally
did.
ready.
But then it was so freeing to um, get out there and have a kind of normal feeling rehearsal. That was
I just
fun. Ooh, the banquet scene. We scared John so much that he broke my favorite cup. I really wanted to say, you have displaced the mirth. Broke my favorite cup.
I wanted to watch so badly, but at the SB, if I just peeked too much, I would have been in view of the audience. But like I wanted so badly to just see the broken cup during
I was
just
like, no, don't
that's
pick it up again. But he has a
so
different line.
just the
Um,
joy of live theater.
what what were you internally like? It's so spooky. Just a little red cloth hanging from your neck, and some spooky light and noise. What were you staring him down with? If you don't
Oh,
mind me asking, did you have a mantra?
I did not, and it came late. It came super late, which I'm ashamed to admit, but that's kind of the actor that I am. I
It
need,
comes when it comes.
yeah, I needed that scarf and I needed that light and I needed that sound to make the connections again of that betrayal that like I mentioned earlier. And just one night in tech, I just started saying in my head over and over, like, how could you do this to me and my son? I thought You were my friend. I loved you. I mean, just all the things that someone that would have been betrayed would say to themselves. And physically, how that manifested was just anger and crying and a quivering lip. And it just happened. And I'm staring directly in Macbeth's eyes, and he started crying. And so it became this thing we just kept doing. And I wasn't always able to get there every night, but for the most part, I could. And so if it read spooky, that's great. But
Yeah.
really, it was just pure anger that again is just contrasted against what I hoped was like could read, that Banquo was a fun, easygoing, reliable friend, to just have that ripped away. And it's like, man, WTF, what did you do? Why did you do this? um
I I love that that humanness, because they're not evil people at the start of the play. In fact, I think they're
no.
uh, decent people that feel like this is what needs to happen
Yeah.
and are brought down by it because they have consciences. And
Well, and I'm
uh,
glad you mentioned that, because that was a comment that I hope I can make, is that I did feel like you brought a humanness to Lady Macbeth that is not often there. I think it can be so easy to just play her
like
evil
a shrewd,
and
mean,
all of that. And I believed that she loved Macbeth, which I think is a choice. I think sometimes Lady Macbeths choose not to, that it's just, all about power, which is a valid choice. But I loved that your Lady Macbeth and Macbeth clearly loved one another. But
I think it was informed a bit by Harold Bloom, who I think what said like before they were murderers, they were lovers, or someone smart said that, but and it might have been Harold Bloom, but yeah, I think it's important that you see that they have each other and that they truly feel that they can do anything if they're, if it wasn't a play full of murder and sabotage and plots, it would be a very inspiring message about
it would.
uh
And also, you, I also got to deliver the news that you were dead. And
oh
so I
yeah.
was able to see, Macbeth's reaction, John's reaction to that.
I never got
And
to see it. What did he do? I know he had the ring.
let me just,
um
well, I didn't get as far to get to see the ring. Because I had to get out of there for that iconic monologue. But you see his heartbreak, you
yeah.
see that happen.
Well,
And again, it just informs the rest of the show, which is that he has now got nothing to lose.
I think about like what they do lose to get what they get. uh
Mm,
and I think for Lady M, in that first scene is so like you don't get to see her before that scene. I imagine she was probably a decent uh ruler, and probably had thoughts about the war. Maybe was well liked. I don't know. You don't get to see all of that. You just
yeah.
get her like her reading a letter to see her as a person before she makes some sort of deal with the devil. But one thing I told myself, I'm like, I'm not allowed to feel remorse. That's part of it. I'm not allowed to cry. I can't do anything womanish. Like I have to no longer be a human. Make me a machine. Like in that pact with whatever dark force is out there to help me do this deed. Um, and then later when she's like, okay, well we did it, and we're miserable. She can't even cry. When
Yeah.
he's slipping away from her, she can't even feel, she can't even cry. So like that dinner scene was so hard because it was just slipping, and I hope it was a good choice, but just a feeling of like I'm not allowed to cry no matter how much, anytime, like because I would see him, you would get him so sad and he would be crying, and of course I want to cry because I'm like
Because you are
and
the
cried.
exact opposite of Lady Macbeth.
Not allowed to. So it was so cool to see him like fully succumbing to the rage and the sadness
Yeah.
and going so far in that way, and her turning into a piece of stone. Um, and yeah, I think that it was fun to play human beings that
Yeah.
are in extraordinary circumstances. But yeah, it was cool that whatever you did to him with your scary ghost eyes, uh, I never got to see. Oh, I have a question for you because I never.